Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out the past 2 weeks, from the 21st of September to the 4th of October. I had so many effing videos, and I'm really behind on stuff. But it was also just a really stupid good batch. Like, geez Louise, what incredible people we got right here. So first the videos I thought were decent, pretty good. And this is, I could have gone kind of hard on, I feel like this is something that probably would have been not good in previous digests or something like that if I really wanted to go in. But I think, all right, let me just say what it is. I always do this. Masked Man had a video called I Can't Help. I Can't Watch Anime. No. And the anime he cites in particular, he goes over this the progression where he's like, okay, I tried watching Gintama and I dropped it. I tried watching Monogatari and I dropped it. I tried watching Yu Yu Hakusho. I'm almost about to drop it. And he mentions one other one. But the thing that it was all in common with these was that they're adaptations. Granted, Monogatari is a light novel series, so maybe, But, like, he makes the obvious argument, like, the of course, is, he's watching an episode and he's like, I could be reading 15 chapters by the time it takes me to finish one episode. That's fine, and that's great. It was a really great comment underneath that has like the most likes, and I don't know if it was pinned or not, but in his comments it was just like, this is why you diversify your media consumption, because if you just do manga, you're not really going to have patience for a lot of other stuff because you are dictating the pace so immediately. The same thing with game. If you play nothing but video games, it might be hard to kind of sit through. If you just watch anime, I mean, for me, my thing is it's difficult for me to read manga or read, to be honest, because I can't help but think of wanting to see it visualized. I want to see it like articulated and animated in such a way with the whole works that anime actually provides. It's this whole visual audio experience, and that's kind of my thing with it. I just can't help but be like, I wanted this to be animated, even though if I really think about it, and it's like, it would just be kind of mediocrely, it would be just like serviceable, and it would just be paced in whatever you want, and it might not be as optimal. Whatever is kind of fantasizing in your head, it's not going to meet expectation. It's not going to meet reality. You're going to have these like expectations versus reality type of thing. And so that's another reason why I don't want to read manga, because I know that my imagination is going to be way out here, and then when the anime comes out of this thing, I'm going to be disappointed by it, because reality isn't going to match my wild expectations that isn't dictated by time, money, or talent, which all of these things are when you actually try to make these things in reality. Which is why it's so impressive when these things actually come out fantastic and as good as they do, because these things happen to come together in such a magical way. But like, I don't have much like, just, that's totally, it makes sense. There's a lot of people, I think, in Masked Man's position. But it is interesting where he lists like, those 4 that he couldn't really get into, where there is another medium that he could be experiencing it instead. Whereas he's like, well, give me an anime that'll get me into anime, basically. And he mentions Gurren Lagann as like, I actually kind of like that one. That was the original. There is a manga for it, but it's like kind of a side, and it's not like an adaptation like Yu Yu Hakusho or something, or Hunter x Hunter. Like, and he's kind of hand waving a lot of these, like, yeah, there might be better in this other way. He's not convinced by any of that. What I think he would be convinced by is experiencing a work that isn't anywhere else, like Angel's Egg, for example. I think he would, something like that, where it's like, oh, I get it. Although even with Angel's Egg, the fact that like he seems to have a bit of a patience problem, in like letting the thing play out. And let me tell you, I'm watching Naruto right now. It can drag. It can go on, and you're thinking, you feel like you're trapped in this like infinite loop, and time's eternal or something, and this is going on forever. But then you realize the episode finishes and it's less than an hour. It is less than an hour in one of these episodes. But you think of the whole hundreds of episodes, you can watch this stuff kind of quickly. I don't even know how many episodes of Naruto in the past couple days, just because I just put it on and I'm watching it, and maybe I'm doing something else, or I'm paying attention to it when it's, there's some people that call that blasphemous or whatever, and there's all of us are different in that way. But like to comment on the video itself, I looked immediately, like I think as soon as I saw that there was animation from like Redline in there, I immediately was like, is this edited by somebody else? Yeah, it is. Because it's like it was a weird contradictory type of thing where he's talking about not getting into anime and not whatever, but then showing off anime in a way that seems appealing, and it seems like he does get it, but you don't seem. So if I feel like if he edited it and it came from his perspective and he was showing the things that he's thinking of when he's saying these things, it would be a lot clearer of what he's talking about. But because somebody else is because he just sends this audio off, because he's a bigger creator now, so he just has other people edit his videos, so he just sends this audio out. And you can also tell this is another person editing it, because there's this portion where he's like organizing his shoes, and he's just out here, and he doesn't sound like he's at the microphone or whatever. And there's an editing note where he's like, oh, he's still organizing his shoes. It's a little tongue-in-cheek type of thing that editors like to do. Like there's sort of a metatext, like, YouTube as a platform has grown to be like, oh, editors have their own unique voice, and there's something kind of, because part of the video creating process, there's just something so immediate about, I don't know, where it's like they know that someone's editing this, so they're going to say the editing thing, and there's no way to seamlessly cut that out in certain portions, so that the editor is their own character. And that's playing out on the biggest possible stages with PewDiePie and Markiplier and all these other ones. Not like he's having a complete banter with this editor or anything, but the editor obviously makes himself known, and that is acceptable. I'm saying that is acceptable. I'm not trying to make that a dig or anything against the editor or Massman's decision or anything like that, but I think it results in some of these little moments where you're showing off anime in a way that, like, you seem like you get it, but you're clearly not getting it, and you're making this as sort of a cry for help type of thing, because you want to experience these cool works. And it's that thing with the community, right, where you see people talking about like Fata Morgana or Umineko. Oh my god, I can't hear people shut up about Umineko. Maybe it's because I follow YN Shocking too much. No. But there's other people, right? Like you follow certain people, and it's like you see that a lot. Like these certain visual novels, right? And you want to experience that too, because they seem like they're having a good time. Or these other pieces of media. And that's largely what a lot of community is like, right? So I can imagine Massman's frustration in doing this, where he's like, I want to have that like these people have experienced too. But I can't, he's also talking about burnout of manga too. And he's like, I'm worried, like I'm already burned out of anime, but like, what if I just burn out of manga? Because, and I think I saw a tweet, I don't follow him actually, but like, I think I saw someone related thing that was just like, oh, I'm 20 today. Like Massman, like he's apparently 20 years old, right? And he's already like, I've been following his channel. I don't watch all of his videos, but seeing how much manga he's consuming and stuff, and how really into this stuff he is, it'll be interesting to see where this goes 5 years from now, 6 years from now. There's people that burn out all the time. But that'll be interesting to see if where that leads, and if that goes anywhere, or if that transforms into something else, perhaps. But I'm just happy he was kind of honest with this, and I didn't think it was all that caustic, as much as this very easily could have become toxic and just like kind of annoying and uncomfortable. It's like you're just talking out of your ass. You don't fucking get it, It's easy for me to, I think if he went that direction, but I think the fact that he was very candidly unscripted, and he was coming from a place of actually wanting to actually is like, hey, I can't help. Like it doesn't feel like a sarcastic help. It actually feels like kind of a genuine, like, hey, I don't know. Well, also being kind of like, this is a little silly, and it's like a little sensational of a topic, right? But yeah, no, I was appreciative of this video, even though I did tweet one thing when I saw this thumbnail. I also follow Gianni and in my subscriptions, and it just so happened that Massman's video was right above Gianni's video of like the microphone, like anything else, like to a trash can. Being like, which it's just funny. I don't mean it that badly. No, I'm just interested in the discussion, and I thought it was cool. Yeah. Oh my god, I have 15 other videos to talk about. It's 10 minutes. No, I am tired. That's right, Urban the Myth. I am tired. Shit. This is a cool AMV from Urban that he had been working on. I remember him streaming it. Yeah, and he said it was like, I think he said it was unfinished, but it seems like a fairly holistic type of video to me. I don't know how. Maybe because it didn't have as much flashy things going on. It does have flashier things towards the end of it. This is an AMV of Princess Kaguya, and right away I'll say, of course, you know, I think the Urban said this is one of his favorite, if not his favorite movie, anime movie, or it's up there. Like it's a deep favorite of his, and honestly, like it got to me where I really understood that, and you know, appreciating certain aspects of it and everything, because I've seen this movie once. I kind of sat through it. It wasn't my thing. I don't know. I can't really describe or say one way or the other about it. I was kind of indifferent towards it, but this was really great on selling it in that way. I think the music choice was really inspired, and I think it was a great music choice for an AMV. I will say that there's some song choices. There's there was a Netflix AMV, I know, that I also watched all the way through, and then I don't really want to talk about it much because it's just, yeah, you know, it's okay. I don't want to say it was not good or anything, but it was just, you know, and AMVs that are that level, it's just like, wow, it's too bad, for me at least. But this had like an actual build up and like a nice crescendoing moment, and again that last third where things are overlaying on top of each other, I thought that was really well paced and really well thought out, and impactful, while keeping the rest of it very restrained and minimal. I noticed, I think there was a couple, I don't know if it was added from the movie or something that Urban did, but there was like some slight zooming outs in some shots, and some really subtle editing choices that I thought were really nice. The one with Kaguya like hitting the snow multiple times was pretty cool. Stuff like that. It's just like, yeah, that's cool. That's neat. I love making this stuff, you know, and you're appreciating it in that level. Happy upload. I'm happy you uploaded something. Let's go. You know, it's okay if you just, you know, dealing with this Minecraft world. Hey, at the very least, Urban, make a video about it. When you're done making the Minecraft world that I remember showing me on stream months ago, a while ago at this point, you're still working on it. I was like, at the very least, make content out of it. I shouldn't say that. I don't know. Sometimes it's fine where it's like it's a Minecraft world just to yourself and it's something you personally enjoy. You don't have to make content out of it. But like, I would like to know what you worked on for this amount of time, right? And experiencing that in that way, or maybe that'd be more work, or I don't know. I'd like to. I don't have Minecraft. My computer can probably play Minecraft at this point, but I'm definitely not playing Minecraft right now. I am way too busy. I am. Damn vacation. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, I'm looking forward to if you something out of that. But this AMV was really cool. Yes, of course. Dong Chang had a cool video on 3 films all animators should watch, and I will say right away that I was a tad disappointed that it didn't have as much of that perspective of why should animators in particular watch these movies. Like, I was really interested in hearing about Princess Arete in particular, because granted, I think all 3 of these barely get that much attention on anime YouTube. But Princess Arete specifically, I don't even know if I've seen a single dedicated video on it besides like reviews and stuff. But Metropolis has been talked about a little bit, and Makia, of course, not like to an extreme, not like overvalued extent, but like Arete specifically. And I did like the talk about these films and the appreciation in them in certain aspects. But they just felt like very lightly salted recommendation type of things. I'm not going to call them reviews. I definitely wouldn't call them that. But it was just something that, you know, as a, from your perspective as an animator, I was going to be interested in hearing about like something about this particular. I think Metropolis, he did mention how it's one of those really early, um, really standout examples that have aged incredibly well with Metropolis of CG integrating with 2D and the technical mastery on display there and the background characters and things like that. I did get that out of that, but I don't know, there's just something kind of lacking about it. Whereas I couldn't tell you exactly what it was. Um, but like no disrespect, of course. I just was like, this is nice. I just didn't feel like as an animator is like this is more than other films, particularly interesting for this and this and this. Like very hyper, even like personal or very minute observations. I think would have been particularly standout or distinctive. But it just feels like more generalized, I guess, in this particular instance. But no, I mean, I think the selection is really interesting. And again, I think your actual community, the material you do bring is really is nice. I was just like a little more expectations with the title of the video. I was just like, ooh, that's really interesting. Of like animators from an animator perspective of like, look how the face moves and things like that, or I don't know. But that's okay. It's not a big deal. Yeah, this is an interesting video. Animator Dormitory channel celebrates 1 full year as a Japanese animator, and this is the start of a new chapter. The start of a new chapter part I don't think was all that big of a deal. I think they said that like they only intended to really do this for about a year, and then they were just going to do, not like the whole Animator Dormitory project, but sharing their experiences on YouTube. They were only thinking about doing this for about a year, at least this particular animator that we've been following. And she's been, really receptive. She's been really happy with all the positive reception that this channel has gotten and the feedback and the following that it's been gaining and stuff. That she wants to continue, describing her life and describing her income and giving the brass tacks of that and what she specifically worked on and what she found difficult and burden. She's like, I'm trying to work on quantity and quality of like my animations because you want to put a lot of stuff into this cool stuff, but that only gives you so much money, so you need to actually make, because you get paid by drawing or something like that. I don't know if I imagine that specifically. That's like, I keep hearing that it's like by drawing or by particular layout or something like that, but I mean, granted, this is the kind of channel to learn that particular thing about, but a lot of that goes in and out the year for me personally. I'm sorry. But no, I mean, it's another update video from them, and it's especially nice that it's focusing on them particularly and like what they experienced, and it's one of those really interesting ones, and not so much like shilling their projects and stuff like that. Not like that's a bad thing, like obviously they should do that, but this was especially nice to hear about. Yeah, I don't have too much to say about it, unfortunately, but yeah, this is pretty cool. I have been looking forward to this Spilling the Milk installment. We got kicked out of an anime convention. Did you? I don't remember such thing. But whatever, is the game, of course. But yeah, it's Evan, Core, Jack, and Koriwa Eden. All of them in these incredibly bright rainbow outfits. These like jackets and stuff. And they're at Otakon, and I met them at Otakon, not in these jackets, but it was after they filmed that. After they filmed this video, I met up with them. But I was really happy to see like them doing this sort of content that's kind of pushing the envelope a little bit. That's kind of a little risky and a little putting yourself out there and stuff like that I certainly wouldn't be able to do. Like I as much as like an outward person I guess, I don't know. I would feel really, caught up in that and not being in control in that sort of way. Putting yourself out there, I think, is really brave and makes for kind of fun or interesting results. The premise here, it was interesting. The idea was that they were split into teams of Jack and Eden and Core and Evan, and the two teams they got prompts of they had to get people to sign a petition of a particular anime hot take, something that they just kind of made this like kind of silly or whatever, like Chainsaw Man should be Chainsaw Woman, and you know, things like that, or season 2 of Demon Slayer should be canceled. And both times I think Evan and Core got really really hard to sell, or something that they didn't really believe themselves, whereas Jack, it felt like a lot of Jack, like, if in like coercing people to sign like a goddamn snake oil salesman. Oh my god. You can just get him to sign anything. It's like, it doesn't matter, put your lie. It doesn't matter if you believe in it, put your name on the signature, you know. Oh my gosh. And then, you know, the very open despair that like Evan and Core were feeling about, like, they weren't doing all that well. That sort of stuff is really funny. I think I commented on their previous challenge video like this that I think there's just as much content to be found in the fourth wall breaking, open, what the fuck are we doing, and kind of despair type of thing. That sort of falling apart kind of content is its own form of entertainment rather than like the premise itself. The premise itself is kind of funny, but they're not all gas no brakes. They're not getting people to like somehow spout their minds and say the most outrageous things. You know, like, the content isn't the individuals that they're asking so much as it is, because I imagine they're a little guarded, right? I imagine this was kind of difficult to do because you see a camera here, right? And I think people are a little more on their guard, especially, like, you know, they're in pandemic and things like that, and this is like one of the first big cons in that instance. I can imagine that was kind of difficult to do. And I wonder if maybe did they get their permission to film them before they did this bit in front of them and stuff like that. It's not easy. This stuff is not easy. So, like, you know, the stuff doesn't come off as amazing as it could have been in some, you know, but like, I thought it was incredibly brave and just like really arresting in that way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you put yourself in that, asking people these kind of ridiculous questions, and you know, putting yourself out there in that way was just really interesting to me. This is a pretty good video by MercuryFalcon, the godfather of bad anime, Akira Tsuburaya. It's kind of going through this string of more classic type of show. Like, I wouldn't call it classic shows, adaptations of classic manga. So it's Akira Tsuburaya having this string of 2000, very early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s adaptations of Leiji work, of Mitsuteru of Yokomoto. Is that the same guy? Yeah, I think so. Ishinomori, I think, was in there. Go Nagai, Ishikawa. A lot of classic guys. They were just doing these like mostly mediocre adaptations, and one of them was Gun Frontier, and I actually I had no idea. I had heard of some of these shows, like Submarine 99, only because I worked on Submarine 99 for Discotheque, but like I had no idea, and I kind of had a vague idea that some of these were, yeah, again, like Gun Frontier I was kind of aware of, but I didn't know it was from this whole lineage and stretch, and a lot of them were really mediocre in such and such ways. I mean, it does seem like MercuryFalcon didn't go so far as to watch all of them. I think he definitely samples them, and you know, we may have seen some of them or whatever. I'm not sure. It didn't seem like he came from a place of having seen all of them, because it did go more into like poor sales. It's poor sales. It's, you know, that was just sort of the objective reasoning to be like, these are bad anime in that way, and then not so much as like clowning on them personally, which I think was actually kind of smart. You know, in watching this video, there was something about it that actually really reminded me of Kenny. There's something kind of thing that Kenny would do, and then like talking about these things in these ways. And I think MercuryFalcon's delivery too also reminds me of Kenny in a weird way. Then that's cool. I think there's something kind of like armchair, casual, interesting, and you know, bringing pretty good, decent facts here. I think I got a lot more out of his previous video like this, which was it's very similar in structure, where it's sort of a parade of shows. The next show was this, the next show was this. But it doesn't do too deep of a deep dive in this, at least in this video. I thought his previous Toka video, it did sound like he had seen the shows and is describing them and when it aired, and it had more detail, it seemed. And maybe it's because there isn't that much detail to be found on some of these titles, because they're just kind of like, not very popular and kind of like these weird, random, mysterious studio you would never heard of made this show kind of thing. So I can understand if the information's a little more scant here. But it just seemed like little more of a routine charade, like not charade, parade of titles of like here's a string of that they're all connected by this one producer, which I do think is really valuable and interesting. It just didn't have like this this real holistic impact, I guess, in the same way. But that's fine. It didn't have to. But it was just interesting in that way. Mikeyuubi, or Mikeyuubi? It might be Mikeyuubi, but Mikeyuubi is also kind of fun. Sorry. I think this is the first time I'm talking about his channel. The evolution of art in Naruto. And he started relatively recently. He only had a couple videos out and less than 1,000 subs. Yeah. But it's mostly shonen stuff. A lot of Naruto vids. But that's cool. As someone who is watching Naruto right now myself, it was really cool hearing about the manga most especially. There's part of this video where even though he says this period of Kishimoto's art style is his favorite, he vocally disapproves of the fact that he was actually trying to make it more so like the anime. And I get why. I actually think the reasoning's really nice of just like he isn't able to be more experimental. He's playing it safe. He's trying to be something that it isn't, right? Like manga and anime are two different mediums. They should be allowed to have different art styles, and Kishimoto shouldn't worry about being jarring from people going into his manga from the anime. Like you shouldn't worry about that. And I think that's really great insight. There was something funny about how like that was the only time he mentioned the anime. And it's in a way that it was like sort of like copy the anime. Like a dirty word or something. So I don't know his full feelings on the adaptation of Naruto, but that's okay. Not like you had to. This is obviously a focus on the manga, and I like that he obviously really towards the start he isolates 3 specific evolutions to his art. Although I was surprised how brief some of these were, where it was like he was saying that the 3rd evolution is like from the Akatsuki invasion, which is like, isn't that like half or like less, like a little less than halfway through the whole show? And then like the evolution from the first stage to the 2nd stage was like the Sasuke retrieval arc. How far into the manga is that? At least in the anime, that's part 1 I have this own personal headcanon. I'm sorry, I'm a new Naruto fan and stuff like that. I haven't even finished the show yet. But like I have this personal headcanon of like it can be separated pretty succinctly into 3 acts. Like a 3-act thing where act 1 is from the beginning to Naruto and Sasuke's first fight and fallout. And then part 2 is sort of like Shippuden for first half of Shippuden from beginning of that up through Pain, like when he becomes the hero of the village. And then the 3rd act is just the Ninja War, right? And that's sort of just complete headcanon. I've not much thought about that otherwise. I'm not trying to, implore anything. But it was just interesting to reflect on what I see as kind of like dividing the story fairly evenly, at least it seems to me, where the art evolution is like the first is relatively quick, and then this one is also kind of quick, which is like a nice sweet spot. And then the 3rd one takes a lot of the manga, and he's describing how it's like, this could be more refined in this way and this way. I really liked the example he gave. I was surprised that they made this public, that there was a previous 2-page spread of this point during the Sasuke retrieval arc with this guy trying to kill Neji with the bow or whatever, and it was a 2-page spread, and he was explaining all the different ways that it doesn't really work, and it's not as striking as it could be. And then he compares it to this other one, which was the official one and the one that they ended up going with, the kind of a revised thing. Or I don't know, maybe this first one was what was published in the magazine, and then this was in the Takuban, like the manga volume maybe? I'm not sure. That was kind of interesting to me, that that the previous example actually exists and is fully inked and like is kind of fully done and stuff. There's 2 versions of the same 2-page spread. I I can't think of another instance like that. I think that was really interesting. Maybe there's other like that. I'm more of an anime guy than a manga guy, so maybe I'm, again, talking out my ass. But like, I thought that was a really strong way to illustrate his point. I thought it was really great. For being a manga video, the manga videos are not easy. Not easy. No, I don't want to. I've done 2 or 3 manga videos technically, and I say the third technically because it's like a manga and anime video technically, but like I've said technically too many times. They're not easy. But like I thought it was really clean. I really liked you weren't doing too much messing with the actual stuff, and you could really get it. There's beauty and art in messing with it and really kind of making this cool video out of it. And there's a video I'll talk about later that definitely does that. But this, I really just liked how clean this was. Really strong examples for each one, and it didn't feel overwhelming in such a way. It does spoil Naruto. Like, I was actually kind of fortunate that I got to the point in the Ninja Warrior where you find out the masked guy, the identity of the masked guy. I was spoiled to that way before I watched Naruto, because I just experienced it through osmosis, because, of course. I was already spoiled to that, but I only just watched the episode where it gets revealed last night, and then I watched this video and very bluntly this point where this character and he's showing many panels of this character unmasked. And it was, I don't remember if he gives a spoiler warning. It's sort of like a, not a big deal if you don't give a spoiler warning, but I don't think you do. So like, I was a little worried. I had, thankfully I've gone through enough of Naruto that I didn't need a spoiler warning. I didn't feel like I needed one, but there was points where you were talking about the third evolution where I knew you were going to be showing later panels and stuff that I kind of zoned out of the video a little. It's like I'm going to mostly hear than talk and kind of avoid, because I don't really want to be spoiled all that much. I feel like there definitely could have been ways that you spoil it a little, but it's like it's bringing a lot of like texture and like kind of like little small things that are it's making it visually pleasing without too many fireworks and really like making a huge thing out of it. Because when you get to that stage, then you really got to deliver and really impress. But here I think he was actually like really tastefully done. I really like the presentation in this video. I thought it was really well done. And I know how much freaking work that is. Oh my gosh. Especially I can imagine with this particular subject matter where you really want to be cognizant and deliberate with your choices of panels and what exactly are you showing to best illustrate your point. But yeah, I thought it was a good video. Could have wished, I get it, Naruto, like, you should have watched it by now or something like that. But like, there's some people that like literally, it's weird. I've talked about it before, but it's weird how many content creators I've seen are watching Naruto or experiencing it for the first time, and they're making content out of that because it's like, oh, newbie watches whatever or something. Anyway, but I'm the similar way. I've been watching it all year. But yeah. Anyway, I enjoyed that video. It was really good. It was a comfy Bonsai Pop video. In the course of the 2 weeks, they had put out a Dead Leaves video and this one. But I wanted to watch the Ranma video. Ranma half is genius. Here's why. Which I do appreciate that you put on Twitter. It's like, hey, sorry, H-Bomber guy, we're gonna take your thing a little, take your shtick a little bit. But man, it was just kind of a comfy video, really. I just liked him talking about it. I just really like hearing from them. I unfortunately don't have too much of substance to say about. One thing that was kind of striking to me was that, like, clearly you'd seen Inuyasha, and it's like, I experienced all of the manga and all of the anime, and then every time you talked about Urusei Yatsura or Maison Ikoku, you came off as a total. You have not experienced these things. Which was just funny to me as someone who's actually a complete opposite from you, where I've only seen Maison Ikoku and Urusei Yatsura, but I have not seen Inuyasha and Ranma 1/2. I'm a weird fan like that. I couldn't explain. I can't explain to you. It's I think it's because like I came into fandom, in the era where it's like Inuyasha is kind of an overpopular thing and there's flaws and and then Ranma One Half. I had really only ever heard when I've heard about Ranma One Half. There is that initial yes, it's hugely popular in the West at the time. And you're right. I like the point that you made where it's not as popular now, and it's not actually on a dedicated streaming platform where you can just like show it to people, right? Which is weird considering how ubiquitous it was at the time in fandom. But the thing I always heard about it, and I don't think you really acknowledged it in this video, was that it kind of went on too long. It kind of went on and on and on, and it petered out. It doesn't really, and that's the case with Urusei Yatsura as well. She just kind of stopped writing it at one point and just did Maison Koku, which has a narrative and has a definitive ending, and the same thing with Inuyasha, where that also has a kind of a whole arc and a definitive ending and a driving narrative. But I really like the kind of leaning into the Ranma Half being a sitcom, and you don't necessarily have a finale to a sitcom. It just kind of stops eventually. But the thing I had always heard of, I'm sorry, I keep leading in with this. I'm definitely going to say it. I had always heard that the second half sucks. Maybe not the whole second half, but like it outstays its welcome, like the show. I had heard that. It kind of repeats itself a lot. A lot of stuff doesn't go anywhere. I think I've heard that kind of the best stuff is when they're introducing the characters, and they're in these initial plots and things that you were describing in the show. It does seem like something that was early. Like all character introductions sound really interesting. And I've also heard great things about the animation itself, actually, because the show, I don't remember the studio behind it, but like I don't want to talk my ass about this, but I've just heard really, really good things, and seen really good things about the production of the first half and just like the animation on it, in that first chunk, and then it moves to somebody else, and then it gets kind of, something else, it doesn't have the same affect. I'll talk up. Take this with a mountain of salt. Take this with a mountain. I'm about to say, I am not backing this up whatsoever. What I've been under the assumption of with Ranma was that it's the same guys from Maison Koku, who were then the same guys from Urusei Yatsura. And Urusei Yatsura, yes, it was 195 episodes, but it really dramatically changes in production over that course of that time, and changes studios, changes head directors, but in such a really masterful way that it just gets better and better. Like it's incredible. There's episodes in the 190s that are bangers. It's like, how do you do that? But like, because you would with Ranma, where it's like it kind of just peters out and you run out of shit to do. And you actually, I like that you make this really, really positive point that's like somehow Rumiko Takahashi manages to come up with new stuff for this concept every single time, and it's really inventive and really fun in that way. But yeah, it was just like interesting that it's like I had heard that to my knowledge, it's like their craft moves on into Maison Koku, and then it's consistently incredible all the way through animation wise. And then Ranma One Half, they're probably just like, all right, next Rumiko Takahashi work, we're doing it again, and it has the same polish and the same, like these guys that have been working on this material for years at this point, going into it, and then I think either they leave or there's some change or something, and it doesn't have that same affect anymore, or with Takahashi being dissatisfied with the end. I don't know. I'm not like in deep with this particular series because I haven't seen it myself and haven't looked into these sorts of things, in this aspect at least. Not that I'm saying that you needed to address those things in your video. I wasn't looking for that in that way. It's like, where's this, I'm not like that. I do like that, you're still being very much yourself. The point that you're making of like, yeah, I have a wife now and I'm straight for the most part. It's just like, but there's other parts where I maybe wasn't. And you're showing yourself from like a couple years ago where you were more expressive with your gender and other things like that. I was like, that's a particularly vulnerable point. That's really interesting. It was very brief, but that's really all you need, and that's really interesting, and that's sort of a particular point that I just think it's really great that you put yourself out there with these videos that, you know, again, like they have this sort of a trying to go for a more broader audience, more mass appeal. But it's like, I'm going to show you guys some cool stuff, while still being really down to earth and really personal and like being a constant presence on the channel too, without making it all about you either, which is like what a lot of anime YouTubers are, right? Where they're not really putting themselves out there so much as the content is front and center, and you just hear their voice a lot of the time. Which is, you know, but still, I think the balance is really interesting there. Yeah, I did. So there was a comfy time, and like flew by 30 minutes. I was just like, this is fun. This is nice. And I just wanted to pow out about Ranma in that way of osmosis and me talking about it. Like, I don't know. Again, all that stuff that I talked about, the production and stuff, do not cite that. That's probably wrong. if it isn't, then sure. But like, I don't want to. I'm sorry if I'm just, you know. But I thought it would be an interesting point to bring up here. Yeah. Hazel had a decent video, The Bizarre Rabbit Hole of Direct-to-VHS Anime. And, you know, I was expecting a lot more out of this one because, like, she's been delivering an insane amount lately. Like, it's just the quantity and quality, consistent, like, the YouTube, like, she's killing it, I think. And again, I really enjoyed it. Like, it doesn't feel like an hour. It feels like an hour well spent type of thing. This one, it just, like, I don't know if I want to complain about it more. Not like I have major problems with it or anything like that. It was more like, it wasn't so much like, it didn't have the same affect of her previous videos of, like, really driving to something. And I guess Vlad Love was similar, where it seemed very meandery. This felt very like, there was a smattering of VHS, of anime on VHS that she checked out. And, she kind of goes one by one with them, and there's some of these where she mentions that, like, she didn't finish this one, or I was bored by it, you know, and doesn't have that much to say about it. I was kind of disappointed with her Kawajiri representation, because she mentions Wicked City, but she says that she like kind of fell asleep a little bit through it, and that's not indicative of the quality, of course, but it's like, why include it? You know, obviously, like, it's important with this era because it's such a seminal title. And it was interesting, her intake on seminal titles in general. I think she was really trying to almost intentionally really bring the stuff that you have not heard of to the forefront. Like, this shit owns. This shit's really cool. You should check this out. And then when she's talking about Urasuki Doji, she's more talking about, like, oh, it's actually not really the first tentacle one. It's more like the Halloween of this type of genre, where it's not the first, but it's the progenitor of, like, the one that got really popular, basically. She kind of downplays it, right? And then she's downplaying the Kawajiri ones. She doesn't even finish Demon City Shinjuku, which I don't think is a sequel. She says it's a sequel to Wicked City. I'm pretty sure it's not a sequel. I'm thinking about it, like, it looks very similar. They're called, you know, there's city in the title. I'm almost positive this is not a sequel. Maybe I'm crazy, or maybe it is listed on Mal or something like that. It is a sequel. I'm pretty sure I thought it wasn't. They're very similar, but, like, what? When were these a sequel? What? Anyway, not a big deal, of course. And of course, again, like, I really like the presentation and the featuring of these completely unknown ones. Some of them were raw. Like, she hadn't seen, there were no subs to these, so that was really interesting. I think the best part of the video, though, was when you were kind of veering away from that train. The next title I watched, the next title I watched, the next title. Like, that parade of titles. I really much liked when you kind of deviated away from that and talked about the quality of fan subs, visiting the Scarecrow video, I think, and, you know, talking about kind of the preservation aspect, and, you know, diverging to a lot of different topics, and it felt a lot more interesting and homey and, like, interesting to hear about. A lot of text, too. There was something I noticed about, I think it happened mostly in this section, but it's happening throughout the whole video, And it's not like it wasn't present in the other videos, but this was just a lot more. And I talked about this with MathWiz, with MathWiz's videos, is like big block of text that I have to pause to read all of, kind of breaks the immersion. I've done it in my videos. Not gonna say I'm blameless in this, and I think there's something fun about that. But there does come a point where it's too much, and it happens way too often. And some of these I don't feel was worth pausing for. Like there was a segment where like she gives like a tangent or transition to something, or it was like a metaphor. She was like describing this image of Mountain Dew being poured down a bathtub. I don't remember what it was for or something, but then she, for a visual, she's black, and then she puts a block of text on screen, and then she just describes just like, I don't want to show you, I was gonna actually buy some Mountain Dew and pour it down the bathtub, and then I was like, oh, that would look like someone peeing, or I don't want neither me nor my wife drink soda anyway, so yeah, I just don't want our bathroom to smell like, and it was kind of a funny tangent, but it just like sort of detracts from me. Like I forgot what that was for. I was more focused on the paragraph that was describing why you didn't show something, and and again, this is not like a bad thing of the video, or it was just something that was like, it could have been without, yeah, whatever. But yeah, like I think that was kind of my favorite part, and sort of the ruminations in that way. And that was something I really liked about the Vlad Love video. It felt mostly about that. It felt mostly like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. It felt mostly like that. But yeah, anyway, yeah, I don't know. I just got completely thrown off by that. I'm sorry. But yeah, I liked the video, and it's a subject that I'm interested in, and I was happy to hear some of these things. I don't think there was a title at any point that I was like, I gotta watch that, or I gotta put that on my plan to watch or something. Not that I'm not into this genre. I totally am. That's fine. I'm cool with it. But there's just, I don't know if you sold me as hard on some of these, or showed me in such a way that would have been interesting. With some sort of, in a visual way. I do think like Hazel's obviously inventive in editing the videos, and I think they're not in a lazy presentation or anything. But it's not like Core's 89 series where there are some OVAs where you really have to show the audience because there's no other opportunity that they're going to see this otherwise, because it's such an obscure piece of media. So there's some of these OVAs that you really strongly recommend, like, oh, if you're going to watch anything out of this bunch, watch this one that I've never heard of, and I'm up below the iceberg. This is obscure, right? If you're going to sell it like that, you really have to show it off in a particular way, and not just kind of talk over it. And that, obviously talk over it, because that is the point of a video essay, right? But like, I don't know, give lay a V or something, or give a clip, or watch this point. Don't just kind of sell us based on the title alone. Like, yeah, that is really cool that it's called Butt Crasher or something, and the whole thing is she attacks with her butt or something. Like, yeah, that's cool. And yeah. But it doesn't go the extra mile, basically. But that's, not like it has to, I guess. But with how many titles you're talking about. But it's something I would have liked to see. Anyway, but no, I of course I love this subject, but I just think it could have been executed a little bit more strongly. But again, it's kind of a smattering. This is kind of the things that she gets, and I'm down to watch a whole hour of this. I wasn't like, oh, I'm tapping out. Unlike a lot of I've watched so many videos that I'm just like, no. It's like, you gotta hook me, man. I'm sorry. Or just like, or I'm not invested in the creator so much. I'm like, I know this is gonna be good, type of thing. But yeah, no, I just like this. I did like this video though. Alrighty then. And now what I thought were the best videos of the week. One of those I thought was like, oh, that was great. Aw, yeah. And the first one's a creator I have not talked about, I don't think. Shining Otaku had an interview with my boss. I'm sorry, I always have to caveat talking about Justin Savakis as my boss, because I don't know, I just Kaicho, I don't know, there's something cool about it. But Justin Savakis, and they put it from Anime News Network because he did create Anime News Network, and I like that he went into detail specifically of how he made it and the reasons why. And and really the nitty gritty of that. But he is, among other things, like worked for several other companies and has started Media OCD a couple of years ago and is now producing many Blu-rays, mostly for Discotheque and Anime Limited. And he, talking about his like future plans, and I really liked the anecdote with he's like he wanted to see his company be a lot like what Lorne Michaels is with Broadway Video, which is the company that Lorne Michaels runs that pays the bills. So that way he's able to do the more creative stuff that Lorne wants to do, like Saturday Night Live. Not that Justin wants to explicitly do Saturday Night Live, but there's certain projects, one of which he's talked to me about, which I'm really excited about and like sounds really awesome and interesting. And I hope actually kind of goes through and you guys get to see it, because it sounds invaluable personally, but I won't say what it is though, because obviously it's but that's something he's looking to do. But just something I wanted to point you guys your way, and I think the Shiny Otaku guys, I didn't catch their names, I'm sorry. They seemed really great. I really liked they guided it's Irvin and Nico. Yeah. I really liked that the two of them really guided the conversation, really let Justin talk. We're really flexible with some of the stuff, some of the technical hiccups and weird things, because Justin had to record in his car and stuff like that. I thought they were really professional about this whole thing. They seemed like really chill guys, really curious, and open to and interested in this sort of stuff. But yeah, I just really enjoyed. Damn, I'm just looking at the comments. I just really enjoyed this conversation and hearing from Justin in this particular way, and some of the various stories that he's been involved with, because he's been around for a long time. I think he's a really great resource and someone that should really be listened to and respected. And not just because he's my boss. ElijahKaiVA. And I'm pretty sure this is mostly like a Twitter. I could have sworn that I found this guy by like being on Twitter and just kind of like, he's just on Twitter and stuff. But been making videos for a little while. But I put out this Technolize video. That was just great. And there's, it just was like really hooked my attention the whole time, despite being a really simple, dry sort of presentation. It reminded me a little bit of Alexander, actually. The way he talks about the show and in really simple, unladen, describing the show type of terms. Simplistic, but clear, As someone who watched Technolize a while ago, and was kind of passed out for half of it, whole thing. I really like Technolize, but there was things that it was hard for me to follow as a viewer. Like I'm kind of stupid. I'm not the smartest bulb. In some ways, with I don't know. There's something with Technolize, but like, I think he did a great job with this, with going character by character. Really giving you the like here's Technolize, here this is, it's not so much this as it is this. And immediately, like I think within the first minute or two, he says the thing that I've always said about Technolize that I always really liked about it was that Technolize does not care whether you like it or not. Or I don't know if that's his exact words, but it's just like there's stuff about it where it's not trying to hold your hand. It's not trying to be as accessible or as interesting as possible. It's really doing its thing, and it does its thing really, really well for people who give it the attention and time and thought to really appreciate it and think about it. And I really like that he goes on the defense against people who think that it's a very nihilistic work, because of course I've heard that hundreds of times, and I may have said it myself. But I think it's like it's nihilistic in tone and the overt blank images that it gives you. But in terms of its deeper theming and what it's trying to actually say, and in its actions and its in its overall messaging, it's actually the opposite of nihilistic. It's actually just like, in spite of all this, that one could definitely see this as being nihilistic, but in spite of that, in spite of all of this dourness and futility and things like that, it is spoilers for the whole show. It really just dictates the end, and like a lot of the character a lot of their journeys have to do with how they die, because everyone dies in Technolize. Sorry if that's also in itself a spoiler, but like, it's sort of like Ideon, right? Where it's kind of like more interesting to hear that all the characters die, right? At least to me it was. That was kind of one of the things that was drawing me to watching Ideon. And I may have heard that Technical Eyes that was the same case. But yeah, of course, that just because you say everybody dies doesn't necessarily dictate the how or why or when. Those are still certain twists in the story. There's certain characters that die fairly early on that you're surprised at. That it's like, wow, I thought that character would be way more important, but they die like episode 10 out of 22 or whatever. Sorry, that was specific. I can't remember if it was 10 or not, but it was, it was surprising in certain characters and stuff like that. But yeah, it was just really clear and really well disclosed, and I really liked it. And I was also just happy to see that for Technolize, that it was getting this kind of representation that is so easy to follow, clear, and I wouldn't say digestible in the same way, but like easy to follow, and something that was like, oh wow, that's really interesting. I'd give that show a try. Even without talking about it's not a review in the same way. It's really purely a textual analysis. But it doesn't even talk about the sort of the kind of interesting qualities of it on a production level. But I just thought it was a really, really well done job. I just really enjoyed that video a good deal. Very happy to see it. Best Guy Ever had such a great video on Dragon Maid. Dragon Maid is effortless joy. And, I just really like the unabashed energy and passion that he has in this video, and talking about just like the complete dismissal of the criticisms and the and the people's problems with it is like, I don't care. Or not like, I wouldn't say that much, but he articulates it in such a way that it feels like he's completely dismissive. He's just like tosses it. It's like, go be a congratulations, you protected the children. Like, now go away. Like, let us have our fun in that way. And then I just love the passion he had in communicating how good KyoAni is here, and they're just the best. I mean, I'm very much boiling it. I'm not doing his delivery here justice at all. I think the vast majority is his delivery here, and the rapid fire digs at the community and at other anime and a lot of seasonal. He's like, think about it. How many seasonal anime did you really give a shit? Or have I actually remembered anything? Here's the list of seasonal anime I've watched recently that I don't remember anything about now. Like, right? Because he felt obligated to watch it because he heard it was good. It was actually the first time I heard anyone talk negatively about Odd Taxi. Right? That's incredible. I mean, I haven't seen Odd Taxi, but you can't shake a stick without hearing people's praises for this show. It's as if it could do no wrong. But it was really interesting that the Best Guy was like, yeah, good show. Did it have to be anime though? Right? And he's kind of like digging into this idea where it's like, it's mostly a show with what it has to say and the messages, and not so much the experience of watching something comfy or funny or interesting. And he was actually talking about like how it actually drags in Dragon Maid when they're doing the plot stuff. He's like, get back to eating food or visiting New York, or kind of the comfy stuff and the stuff that he was watching the show for. I just really like the energy for it, and the unabashed willingness to say some of these things that I think a lot of people would get mad at in any other context. But the fact that he says it in such a confident, Chadly, like it really is just sort of the Chad meme, the virgin versus the enjoyer, Dragon Maid enjoyer, really good energy here. It's just so infectious. I like that it wasn't as much about Dragon Maid as it was about his consumption of it, and just sort of like what's going on lately and things. I just really like the rumination of it, and it's just like, yeah, it was really infectious. I actually really want to watch it again because it just gave me such good vibes, personally, as someone who's just venting these things that we can't we don't want to come off as negative Nancy's towards about, right? But he's able to really just be like, yeah, that was crap. I don't know, things like that, in such a confident way. It's really admirable. It's really good stuff. Hiding in public, at it again, from you 5 years ago. Man, what a cute video. This is a entirely personal video, and like you could say that about a lot of hidings videos, but this is just like, it was almost an update video with how incredibly personal this was, right? And talking about his state from when he wrote this letter. It's a real letter that he wrote before he graduated high school, and he had not read it. And the bulk of the video is before he reads this letter and giving him this, like, okay, so since I graduated high school, this and this and this happened to me, this and this and this and this, and they're all very personal information and stuff. Not giving you his address or anything, but telling you where he lives, right? And it's just sort of like, not enough to incriminate, where he's naming names and stuff like that. But it's more like stuff that is you don't often ever see from an essayist. Like, or just from like a channel like Hidings, right? And people are like, yeah, that's totally indicative of what Hiding has made for a long time. He's probably alluded to his parents or his relationships or his friendships and his career and this and that and the other thing, right? He's alluded to this. He puts himself in every video he makes, of course. And I really like that at the end of the video, he has sort of a montage of like, thanks for sticking with me and stuff. And he gives a kind of a montage of his favorite moments from particular videos, or just like things that are just sort of like little threads that you could actually, from the story that he tells in this video, and then seeing this montage, you're like, oh yeah, that's where this comes from. And you can see that point in his life where he was at that point, mentally and things like that. And really guiding it in that way and being personal and honest also, and being vulnerable in that way. I think it takes a lot of courage to be like, I was disappointed that when I initially got to Twitch, it was super exciting and I had over 100 people and whatever, and then I was terrified that it was going to 80 and it was kind of settles around 20. And that, like, to voice that is kind of, you don't want to come off as ungrateful, right? To me, I would feel the same exact way. I do feel the same way on it. I'm sharing my own experience. When I did my first live stream period, it was that tier list of stuff, and obviously it's a tier list about other other YouTubers, yummy drama. Like, of course that's going to get kind of some attention and stuff. And there was a point where Nux rated me, and that was wild and stuff, and I was actually really flattered and happy about that. As I'd never had experience like that before. But for my first live stream, I had a fair decent lot of people commenting and watching me and stuff, and it was great. And then since I've been doing these Anime Encyclopedia ones, they have very few people watch them, right? And that's totally understand. I can understand that it's not drama, or it's not this other thing or whatever. But it's hard not to think that and be like, I wish I had this other thing that I used to. You get the taste of the bigger viewership, and then we get to the lower viewership that you should still be grateful for, that a lot of people don't ever get even close to this kind of, this amount of viewership. You still be like, I don't know. I just thought that was really interesting and happy. I was just nice. It was good to hear about that sort of stuff. But I always just really admire that sort of thing. And also the fact that you can edit a video like this at all. The fact that you can find visuals for these sorts of things and find, have these personal videos and things like, and mashing together and like crafting a video like this. It was just like, it keeps my attention the entire time. I also really like how raw and unfiltered the actual reading of the letter was, where you had not read it at all. You made this whole video up to this point and then read the letter and it's like, well, that was depressing. Where it's just like, it was like, it does sound like me, and things like that. And you were very upfront and honest about it in that way. But I know, I just love these kinds of videos from you. I'm sorry I don't feature you on Digest for the things that you put a lot of effort in, with like the Chainsaw Man video and things like that. For whatever reason, either I don't want to be spoiled to certain things like Attack on Titan, which you do a lot of, or Chainsaw Man, or I'm just, it's the particular subject that I'm like, oh, I haven't seen that yet, or Whatever. It is what it is. But I'm happy to still follow you, and I'm sorry we don't talk too often. It made me think of, was just like, how I think it seems maybe it's just because you were talking about it for the subject of a video that you just kind of have to force yourself to think about it. But at least like, it made me think of how like, we don't talk that, we only talk when there's like voice chats and things like that. And we don't do a lot of like a one-on-one stuff. And that's fine. I just hope we have a good acquaintance, and it doesn't have to be like, I don't know what I'm asking. To be honest with you, I don't know what I'm talking about. I just hope that we can still remain in touch and stuff like that. And it was really cool seeing you out at the con too. Yeah, guys, look, some of these, the next two videos after this one, they're kind of obvious of like, yeah, of course that's an amazing video. Like, of course, right? And that's not to dig. I guess that's kind of a bit of a backhanded compliment to this one. But I'm honestly not. But like, guys, seriously, this was fantastic from Hentai Man. The euphoria of 80s Japan. I commented on his video being like, dude, this was great. Like, honestly, I just think it had the right amount of flippantness and his inquiry, but it was mostly dropping facts. It was mostly informational and educational in that way. In terms of it being like perfectly cited and whatever, I don't know exactly, or how accurate or not. That's not really what Digest is about for me. But it does sound like all the pieces are really came together for this one, and it just seemed really, because you hear about 80s Japan and the bubble economy all the goddamn time. But this was the first time where I actually got a real reason for why that happened. And then like kind of why it crashed as well. It's not like the most detailed or information, or riveting in the same way as an actual documentary of it or something. But I just think that he really lands this great lot of different pieces. This stuff's really interesting, but with the kind of memey type of humor that he has with like, the Thomas the Tank Engine type of stuff, would talking about the train system. I just thought that was really funny. Different stuff like, and balancing it with some of the United States stuff happening at the time, and then the stuff with the show era Heisei and the stuff like that. I just thought it was really informational in a way that doesn't seem like I'm watching a documentary or I'm watching something that's very denser or whatever. It just feels very approachable. It feels like something any random audience member who doesn't give a shit about these issues, or doesn't give a shit about quality. I don't want to say doesn't give a shit about quality, because watch this one. It's another backhanded. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That's so bad. No, no, I don't know. The less discerning viewer that's just like, they care more, I don't know what I was trying to say. I really don't. Maybe I'll take this whole thing back. I can't describe it, but it's sort of like incredibly approachable and funny and but mostly information and stuff and education and finding this stuff interesting and showing these graphs and this historical commercials and things like that, and giving little explanations for this and that and why this and that, without making it too elaborate or this big production or anything. I just thought I was just really happy with it. And I finished the video, I'm like, that fucking slapped. I was like, that was great, And it's not like my jaw was on the floor the entire time or nothing like that, but I was just like, oh my gosh. No, but I was just really happy with it. And, I can also see that happening too, given Hentai Man's, creation arc, with some of these other videos he's made. I'm looking at the videos now and I'm like, where's the one that was just like, there's something about it where I could kind of see this sort of arc happening and him talking about these certain things. Actually, yeah, wow. Debunked Australia and UN anime ban response to Anime Man and Moss Pause. It'd be interesting to watch that too. I don't know. I just think he did a great job with this. Personally, I was just really wowed by it. Yeah, I don't know. Couldn't say, but it was awesome. All right, now let's see if I can gush maybe that much about these next two videos. The first one, of course, being from Lines in Motion. Donnie comes through with Our Dreams and At Dusk. I'm reading again because my fucking thing is blocked. The use of visual metaphors. is a particular manga that I'm not familiar with. Again, I'm not a manga person. Yeah. The thing that's kind of the front of my mind the entire time, and this was obviously the case with their Blue Period video, they're at the top of the game with manga videos. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, there's people that are more prolific in talking about more manga and having a bigger platform, perhaps. But in terms of the craft of editing a manga video, oh my god! Like Donnie is just like I'm thinking reflection, like I've probably just gushed about it in their other in my other digests about their videos and stuff. But like, it just keeps going. It just keeps happening. They can't keep getting away with this. Just the incredible variness of the transitions and inventiveness of the animation of the manga panels, and the actual animation of it too, and just like creating these scenes, bringing these things to life, like literally, in some of these cases. But like, talking about like the material itself, I'll be honest, like, I'm not as versed in these sorts of things and being LGBTQ and stuff like that. And I'm sorry that Donnie's gotten like some hate comments already and some jerks and stuff. And I imagine that's literally what this video is actually talking about too. It's just proving its point that there's so many people that by accident are being, or on purpose perhaps, or being just passive aggressive or aggressive. they're just homophobic. They're just transphobic. there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And talking about it in that way. Again, I really like that, the way they talk about manga isn't so much of the this is about this character that blah 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 blah. It's more just it feels like they talk about form first, and then kind of later in the video you start to get an understanding of the protagonist and of their main plight and what's actually happening in this particular manga. And there's some moments in this where it just felt so vast and a lot of different things are happening that I just was like, is this the same manga? Like, not that it felt completely different, but it just felt so broad that it's like, wow, all of this stuff is happening in one manga. It was just really impressive to me, And again, they're just at the top of their game and just consistently reinventing. They're not using the same, gimmick or anything. Not very maybe they are, and you just don't notice because it's so fancy, and we're just being used in very smart ways, of course. But it's incredible craft on display, and it's like, ugh. Especially if you've made videos, you're just like, oh, no. And God bless you for making this kind of video. Also, the small glimpse that we get into your personal perspective here was really nice too, and talking about how you have to talk in low volumes because of what you talk about, and that was surprising to me. I mean, I can understand being hesitant to talking in this video because it's talking about those sensitive things that you yourself are a part of, and like being a part of this community yourself, which I think also lent a lot of great credence to what you were talking about, of course. But I can imagine you being sensitive and worried about your parents hearing you in this video. But I was surprised to hear that it sounds like when you said videos, I was like, wow, like even your like which Altier one, which is really just form and kind of like technical craft and doesn't talk so much about like those sensitive issues or any in that way, but you still have that Barry and stuff. That's really interesting. Sorry. I can imagine. It happens, but I'm hoping you can find a way to overcome or just move away from that situation so you can talk in confidence. And you do talk. I think the actual like delivery you do have, I think, is actually works really, really well because it's just very calming and deliberate, and just, it flows really well. And I don't know, I'd say keep it, but if it's giving you this sort of like anxiety and stuff, it would be, I would hope that you're able to find ways to overcome that. Not overcome it, but like not personally, and not like saying get over it, but more like find a way to remove yourself so you find a place that you're comfortable with, like being able to live in a situation that you can feel comfortable recording. Like I'm able to feel comfortable recording here because I'm with roommates that understand. They also do their own podcast and stuff. so like there's no weirdness to it, right? Or my my parents were a little more accepting of that, but if they're not, and it's like, yeah, I can understand that being really difficult. But it's like that little piece was just like really interesting, and just like, I don't know if that was like the actual illustration of that. I didn't look into whether that was an artist or yourself or from the manga somehow or something. I don't know. But yeah, let me see. I'm not sure. I don't know. But yeah, no, it was just like, it's hard for me to really articulate it. It's like, oh yeah, and about certain things with manga in particular, because it's not my wheelhouse as much. But yeah, what I did like was the brief chunk of what was it? The Ryoko Ikeda and the old manga generation. I forget there's a particular terminology for that group of authors, but like talking about them and the where that's coming from the visual metaphor perspective and how that translates to the modern day. I thought that was really smart to include. But yeah, I just really enjoyed that. But there's the technical Marvel craft is just like, whoo, you're way up here. And it was this video and then the one afterwards, of course, that was just making me be like, what was I tired about? Like, I was getting exhausted making videos like this, and I wanted to make more smaller ones, but now I'm getting frustrated with those in a different capacity. But I don't want to air my laundry here now. But for now, it's just like, great video. Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous video. I don't have too much else to say about it, and in terms of the content, because again, I can't speak on it as well. But it was just really great to hear perspective and hearing about this particular manga. Yeah, it was awesome. All right, you really just gotta pander to me like this? You just gotta make the video just for me? Come on, dude. Miyazaki's magnum opus by one of my favorite creators about one of my favorite media properties with pause and select featuring in a significant capacity and not just like he literally just has a third of the video just dedicated to himself and it's just a pause and select video on top of being a STEVEM video. Come on, man. Sheesh. Okay, but like you could say, I would be like, all right, well, what can I say? It's the same as like his comb video. But like what's even more, like it's stepped up even further. I just love that not only have I never heard of this information before about Nausicaa. I had heard that like they had been they wanted to make this an animated thing, but it had to be based on something. It couldn't be an original IP at the time. So they had to make this manga But like the whole relationship with Suzuki, the drama with Takahata, the assembly of this movie to be in like a year or less, and the miracle that came up with, and the actual information here is ground. Why have I not heard of this? Really revolutionary, cool stuff. But not only that, see, like that was something I'm expecting of you, right? There's like you've put that research in. I expect this, and I also expect at this point the illustrations that you have for these different creators and the artistry that you're putting in on top of and you're not really showing that much from the movie because of course you don't want to get hit by Ghibli. Totally fair, actually. And the same thing with the manga as well. You're not actually even showing that much of the manga so much. But you're really able to talk around it in such a way that like is really fresh and new. Actually, it doesn't feel stale in terms of, yes, that's what means being fresh. It means you're not stale, Shabes. Like Christ. No. I just realized that just now, literally as talking about it, that I'm like, that's why you don't use much footage of the movie or the manga, because you just didn't want to get fucking hit. And so instead, you have to use all of these production images and your own illustrations, but like the real key new thing that I knew was like it's been there obviously, and it's it's been prevalent. I'm not gonna say it's a completely new invention on your end, but like the humor in this is freaking great. Like the actual sort of like character that you give Miyazaki and the emotion that you give in his delivery And the fact that you illustrate him in various different ways and really punch up how frustrated he was about certain things, so that Takahata gave it a 30 out of 100. Jesus Christ. And he's like, why did you publish that? You know, or whatever. And like really selling that and painting the scene for us. The element of making it dramatic and making it emotionally engaging as well as informational, while not putting yourself in there too much. While just kind of acting as this is really cool. You're such a cool guy. Just like this really cool, like, overseer, like almost kind of like, I'm just thinking about this right now. Almost, what is his fucking name? I'm gonna look it up right now. Rod Serling. It felt like it's like the Twilight Zone, where you're just this passive observer and you're kind of guiding the audience through it, and you're like, well, too bad. Or it's like, oh, that's a tight headline, or like things like that, and you're just kind of like narrating this story without putting yourself in it too much. It's not about you in that way. But also, I really like the improvement, I think, from your Cone video. I think I may have mentioned, it reminded me of like, oh yeah, that's great. Because I remember talking about with your Cone video and other videos that like when you're narrating from somebody else, you don't realize that it's you talking, it's you quoting something. You don't realize that sometimes. So there's moments in this video where you have like the character with the text and stuff, and then when you want to cut to something else and it's still just you narrating their quote, you still keep the quote at the bottom and it's still subtitles. And it's kind of weird in that way. Like it's sort of like it's a unique flavor that I don't think I've ever seen in a video, where you're quoting something at the bottom, like subtitles almost, but you're just showing something else, but you're quoting. It's not like it's not like a voice clip or something. It's you narrating a quote, but it's like subtitles. I don't think I've ever seen that before. That's brilliant. I think that was such a great solution to that idea of just like losing that, like, wait, where were you talking? Where's the quote? Where's that disconnect sort of deal? And then again, that wasn't that it was a bad thing. It was just sort of like, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of quotes sort of thing, you know, in a good way. But then of course, oh my gosh, you just panned at around that time, like close to the time where you were about to pass it off to Joe. I was actually wondering, because I knew that it was featuring Pause and Select just based on your tweet. I actually had no idea when you were making this video that you had that. I was like, oh my gosh. But like through that, I was like, okay, so he's gonna do is Joe helping him with some editing stuff, or is he? Where is he going to insert Joe here? And he's like, I'm going to pass it to talk about the apocalyptic themes of the manga. And then Joe really doesn't mention Nausicaa very much at all. He's just giving you the full outside context and what the political atmosphere was and the cultural atmosphere was at that time when the manga was being released and finished, which is around when the bubble bursts, I believe. I believe it finishes in 91, something like that. I don't know, but like he's really just painting the image there, and with the same amount of polish, the same amount of newfound clarity that I think Joe's been really getting better and better at, where you're able to follow him a lot, giving these really interesting quotes. There was a moment that I don't remember he's ever done before of puppet tooling images of the authors he was citing, and he puppet tools them as if like the images of them as if they're moving. It was kind of uncanny, actually, in a cool, interesting way that I think as a personal content creator, I'm like, wow, ooh, I was like, that's interesting. But I don't know if as a layman it'd be like, I don't know how uncanny it is. I could tell it was puppet tooled, but maybe that's because like I'm used to seeing his videos, and if I was to guess how he's doing that would be my guess, and it's probably right. Not that I'm going to toot my own horn or anything. Maybe it isn't. I imagine it is. But like, yeah, I don't know. That was a really interesting choice I've never seen him do before. I thought that was really interesting. And yeah, he just had a really good command of the whole situation. I really like that he's really it's a really engaging lecture. And I don't want to, maybe lecture is like a derogatory. It's like, it's a lecture. Maybe it's like, I don't know, but it was engaging in that way, and it's sort of just like, I don't know, really directing with in an arresting way that I was really happy with. I thought that was also just really smart to include, and also just in general, this is just not about Nausicaa in terms of what it's about, in terms of the, I think it's talking about its overall themes, I guess, but it's almost squarely Miyazaki's story, and the work around it, and how did this come to be, and the production behind it, which is way more interesting in my opinion, because it's just like the movie's the movie, right? You can have your own opinions of, whatever, because like everybody has that. It's a, this isn't just any other Nausicaa video, right? Which plenty of people have made, right? This is just completely new information. I mean, maybe not new information. Like, people could have easily looked this up themselves or something. I don't know. But like the amount of like actual like new stuff here, and citing certain things, and just bringing that in such an entertaining and new and fresh and distinctly only you could have made this sort of video. Obviously it's a banger. But obviously it's also like my favorite animated movie. Like, it's my favorite. And it was just hearing about the how actually tumultuous this was, and how like they barely actually got this going and stuff, and the results being what they are. And then hearing about how Miyazaki had actually never seen it until 2009, and he actually wept afterwards. He's like, oh my God. And hearing about that, it was just really great. Full package. Perfect. I was like, God, man, thank God we have these kinds of videos, man. Shit. But like I said, it was making me be like, the hell am I doing? The fucking... I felt like I made kind of videos that were close to this, and then I just got really like burnt out on them. I don't know why. I know why. It was because I ran into a subject that I couldn't figure it out. Anyway, no, I have to figure my own shit out after watching that. Like, what the fuck am I doing? Damn it. Anyway, that was fantastic. Yeah. It's almost an hour and 30-minute digest. Makes sense. I expected that. It's 6 o'clock. I just still edit this. Have a good week, everybody. Yo, peace.